I never realized that billionaires are basically psychopaths until that oceangate submarine imploded last year. And I think the rest of the world figured it out around the same time. Because instead of people posting things like rest in peace or posting their condolences, my timeline was filled with, why would those crazy motherfuckers get on that rinky-dink ass submarine anyway? And not only did they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go 12,000 feet under the ocean, but they were doing it to go view another wreck that also killed a bunch of rich people. But this isn't really about the submarine, because that might be the least crazy activity among these rich adventure-seeking psychos. It's about the whole gamut of extreme thrills that are only available to people of a certain income class, an income class that people like you and me will probably never be a part of. I'm talking about things like strapping into a spacecraft and being launched off into space, or hopping on a helicopter and going to the top of the highest peak and jumping out with nothing but a pair of skis on your feet, or buying tigers and lions as pets. Because to me, all of that shit sounds insane, and I'm sure to most of you it does too. And that makes me wonder, with all of the money that billionaires have available to them, why do they use it to do things that's gonna pretty much risk their lives? Well, let's talk about it. But before we do, let me give a little bit of a disclaimer, because this video isn't to minimize the incident that happened last year on the submarine, or to minimize any tragic incident that has happened while someone was doing an extreme sport. And also, I'm not a medically trained professional. I'm just a guy who works with entrepreneurs. I have many working relationships with very wealthy people, and I've spent years studying the habits of millionaires and billionaires. And does that make me qualified to make this assessment? Hell no. But I'm gonna do it anyway. If you think that every extreme wealthy person was on that submarine when it imploded, then you're totally incorrect. Because there was a very long list of people that were ready to take that trip. Even Mr. Beast said that he was supposed to be on that submarine that day. And even knowing the tragic results, I guarantee you that if that company was to host another trip going down into the ocean, hundreds of rich and wealthy inheritance kids are still gonna sign up for it. Let me give you a little bit of an example to prove my point. Richard Branson's company, which is Virgin Galactic Holdings, they had their first commercial space flight last August. Again, I should emphasize the first, which means they had never done it before and there was no proof that they could do it or that it would be a successful trip. Is that something that you're gonna sign up for? I'm definitely not signing up for something like that. But at the time, the company had a backlog of over 800 people ready to take that trip. And it was only a 90-minute expedition with the buy-in between $250,000 and $400,000 per seat. And I would bet that the Titanic had the same response before its first trip. And you know how that ended. It's kind of crazy, but they'll spend hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to be the first to do something, even if safety hasn't been proven, or even if they're gonna be putting their life on the line to do it. Jeff Bezos and his space company Blue Origin sold its first ticket for just a 10-minute space flight, and that ticket was $28 million. Now, are you willing to pay $28 million so that some guy who's an expert in e-commerce can strap you into a spacecraft and launch your ass into an endless black pit? And if you're rich, but not that kind of rich where you can put down $28 million to put your life on the line, well, no worries, because there's other more affordable ways that you can gamble your life as well. For the low price of only $20,000, you can hop on a helicopter, go to one of the highest peaks in the world, jump down and ski down the side of a mountain. Maybe that sounds fun to you, but it definitely does not sound fun to me. And by the way, if you thought going underwater 12,500 feet to see the Titanic is crazy, there are companies that'll take you down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, which is 30,000 feet under the ocean. So if the oceangate submarine didn't kill you, well, you have other options to make the news as well. Congratulations. See, for me, in my life, a thrill is doing something like jet skiing or hopping on a roller coaster. You know, things that are normal that millions of people do every day. With these activities, there's a very high number of success stories and a very low probability of me dying. And that's kind of how I like my thrills. Fun in the moment, but I actually get to live afterward. But then again, I'm not a billionaire. So why do billionaires seem to have this death wish? Well, I think it's more to it when you look into the psyche and the actual lifestyles of these rich adventurers. The actual truth is, thrill-seeking activities aren't just sought by rich people. In fact, the one thing that probably keeps a lot of us from actually doing these death-defying activities is that we just can't really afford them. But let's not act like thousands of people don't pay to skydive every week or to get stuffed into a little cage like a sardine and lowered down into the ocean so that you can go see great white sharks up close. Hundreds or even thousands of people have gotten lost in unmapped cave systems or in deactivated mines. But every weekend, people still go out and do it. And they do it for the exact same reason that millions of people do drugs every day, because it gives their brain this dopamine rush. And just like doing drugs, the more that you do it, the less that it excites you over time. And eventually you find yourself just chasing that high and trying to find the next thing that's gonna exhilarate you or that's gonna give you that dopamine rush again. As humans, it's really our nature to do things that are exciting to get us out of that pattern of everyday mundane life. However, for the ultra wealthy, that everyday mundane cycle of life might be filled with activities that us regular people look at as once in a lifetime opportunities. And when you do something day in and day out, then it doesn't really seem that extreme anymore. Your 400th skydiving trip isn't gonna seem nearly as exciting as that first one. So eventually you're gonna wanna go higher and higher so that you can get that same dopamine rush. For the ultra wealthy, they can afford to keep elevating these adventures to a level where it becomes so extreme that the lower class and middle class can't even begin to comprehend it. And outside of just seeking thrills, there's another component to this as well, or another thought process that makes the ultra wealthy do really dangerous but potentially cool shit that the rest of us just can't afford to do. And that's competition. It's the age-old story of keeping up with the Joneses. And it sounds crazy, but it really is just our nature to want to show that we're doing better than, that we're cooler than, or that we have better lives than our peers or the people that's around us. And it's literally the whole premise of social media platforms like Instagram, for instance. Your neighbor has a Kia, so you want to do it one step up and get a Mercedes. Your coworker comes into work showing all those cool pictures they took in Cancun, and now you're starting to get the itch to go to Australia. It's competition, and that really is just the human way. But now imagine if you're a billionaire and all of your friends are in this same ultra wealthy circle. They're all at the party talking about how they just swam with killer whales, and now it doesn't seem so cool that you just got back from swimming at the Great Barrier Reef, or one of them just bought a new pet baby tiger and now you find yourself hating your little poor labradoodle. When you're rich and competitive, then you find yourself having to one-up the one-up. And this is why there's been this ongoing war over the last several decades of billionaires trying to build the biggest yacht. Jeff Bezos spent $500 million to build a 127-meter-long super yacht, while Steven Spielberg sold his 86-meter super yacht for $150 million so that he could make room for his 109-meter super yacht. These yachts are so big that the owners will probably never fully explore them. But because the next billionaire got something bigger, now they have to one-up the one-up. We're talking about exclusivity, but not the type of exclusivity that we're used to as regularly financed people. This is about being the most exclusive of the most exclusive. Because when you're already at the top 1%, how do you differentiate yourself from your peers? You have to go extreme, even if that means risking your life. And if that means signing up to hop in a water hoopty that's controlled by a Sega Genesis controller and going 12,500 feet under the ocean surface, then that's exactly what you're gonna do. The truth is, these billionaires seem crazy as hell, and they are. But if you were a billionaire, then you probably would be too. Seeking thrills and succumbing to competition, that's just human nature, and it's really the reason that we do most of the things that we do. So the answer is yes, billionaires are definitely psychos. But a better question is, are they evil? Because there's a few things about them that might absolutely convince you that they are. And you can learn all about them in this video right here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care and keep doing amazing shit.